Florida State hosts a big-time recruit, and they get a recruiting prediction.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. The Florida State Seminoles had a very important visitor on campus. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes because his recruitment does change what's going to happen with Tony White's defense. And we also have a prediction. They lost out on a recruit. There's another group of players that are super important. That's the offensive linemen that are on the board. Some of the commitments, we're going to talk about them. And to finish up, we're also going to talk about a question that I got on the Locked On Seminoles page. How do recruits get ranked by the services? It is a very complex and convoluted conversation. I want to try to make it more succinct to make it easy for people to understand. But recruiting, everybody has their opinions, and I'm going to discuss that part of it too to wrap up the show. But first, Brody Jennings came to Florida State for an official visit. They're in the hunt now. The DB out of Jacksonville is one of the best players in the state of Florida, one of the best DBs that I have seen in the South this year, and that's saying something because it's always loaded. He's out of Mandarin High School, I believe, and it wouldn't matter if he was at a small school, big school, or whatever. He stands out live against top competition. He was really good at the Under Armour event, and that was probably the biggest reason that I thought, okay, whoever gets this kid, probably getting a guy that's playing no later than his sophomore year in terms of a lot of reps, not just a guy that rotates in every fourth or fifth series, gets 10 reps a game. We're talking about a guy that can get 30, 40 reps as a DB. And it wouldn't surprise me as like a freshman, even in conference play, ACC, Big Ten, SEC, whatever. Really good. But he's been committed to Michigan for a long time. And he will visit the Wolverines this next weekend. I don't know if he's really that locked in because in addition to Florida State just coming off that visit, he's also taken trips to Auburn. Brody Jennings has been to Florida. And Brody Jennings has been to Miami. Is he really committed to Michigan? Or is this just an open battle and maybe going into the OBs, a safer way to put it? Brody Jennings favored Michigan. I think it's the latter, just my opinion, but we'll see. DB with length, he's got size. I think he can be a boundary corner or a field corner, just a very good football player. And if you wanted to put him at safety, he could probably play that too. I just know that Brody Jennings is really good. So we'll see if he locks in with Michigan this weekend. If not, do not be surprised if he ends up a Nole. Cameron Wilson, this is a kid that at one point I thought would end up at Florida State. He committed to Syracuse. I still thought there was a good chance they could flip him. He was going to visit this weekend. He canceled that and has shut it down, allegedly, to stick with Syracuse. Now, I've said numerous times on this show, and I'm not going to back off of it, you cannot lose kids to Syracuse if you're Florida State in-state. This is a bad look. No way around it. I've given Fran Brown his due. Great recruiter, but it's Syracuse. This is not a good look. Florida State needs to figure this out. If you keep losing kids to Syracuse, you're never going to beat the Miamis and Clemsons, et cetera, that you aspire to beat on any form of consistent level. This is unacceptable. So Cameron Wilson out of Miami Southridge, the top defensive end, will be a player for Syracuse, barring something unforeseen. Running back Wayne Shanks Jr. out of the Kincaid School, one of the top players in the class of 2027, visited Florida State. That's a really good player. It's always good to see FSU get ahead of the curve. They started in that a little bit more last year, and it's even more now. It will pay dividends down the road. I know people are like, oh, he's not going to commit right now. If you don't get underclassmen on campus, it's game over. In today's world, you need 4 and 5 visits, kids, from 7-on-7, camps, all that stuff. And he came over from Houston. He's got to be at least interested. That's a long hike from Houston on I-10. So we'll see if they get back in the mix with an official visit, maybe some more unofficials this year. But he is one of the top running backs in the class of 2027. Now for the prediction. I don't know who, what, when, where, why when it comes to information, who has contacts where. But Dexter Carter's son, Devin Carter, committed to the Noles, flipped to Auburn, then started visiting Florida State again, heard all kinds of rumors, but he said he's shutting it down. I'm going to be an Auburn Tiger. Well, despite that, this is why recruiting is so buck wild. Despite that fact, one of the brethren over at Noles 24/7 has decided that he's going to put in a prediction for Devin Carter to go to Florida State, which seemed like very odd timing to me. Now, with that being the case, Zach over at Noles 24/7 does a great job with recruiting. I'm not picking on him, but it's very unusual that you see somebody end up being crystal balled after they say, I've shut it down, and the crystal ball's not to that program. Something's going on there. Either information is absolutely horrible that he's received, or the kid changed his mind again, or there's just something off. I need to see it. Let's find out if Carter takes, yet again, a visit to Florida State this fall. Maybe he comes for the Alabama game. But he is one of the top wide receivers in the state of Georgia. He's at Douglas County High School, just west of Atlanta. Really good program. And he can fly. Florida State needs separation speed, just like everybody else at the wide receiver position. This guy fits the bill. And again, his dad, Devin Carter's dad, is Dexter Carter, the elite running back from 86 to 90 for FSU, who went on to play with the Niners in the NFL. Really good player, still involved with his kid's recruitment. He helps take him to places and stuff. And I assume he wants him to go to Florida State, but I don't know how involved he is. I don't know Dexter, but this is fascinating. Again, I'd heard Auburn, and then like right after I hear that, and then the kid shuts it down, Zach put in a prediction for FSU. I don't know what's going on, but I think that is fascinating. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about O-line recruiting, and I'm also going to talk about how recruits get ranked. It's a little bit more convoluted than what many people probably think. I know everybody thinks there's just tons of bias, but there is a system to it for each network. We'll get into that next here on Locked On Seminoles. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When you have an opportunity to get things done efficiently and do it without all the frustration, that's always a good thing. With Monarch Money, that can be a part of your time spent with your finances, because you can put everything in one spot, all your budgeting stuff under the Monarch Money app, and then you don't have to search around, try to figure out what's going on, and juggle different things you've got going on with different apps and wasting time. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. I truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Please hit that like button, that notification bell, and subscribe to this podcast. Truly appreciate it. We are in the midst of the heated recruiting battles, and I'm going to continue on here in a second. But if you like recruiting news, this is the place for you. And if you have not already, check out the Portal Podcast. That is my other podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, Recruiting NIL Transfer Portal. Talk about all the different commitments on a little show I call the Recruiting Blitz on the Portal Podcast. And there's just shows on all the different players committing. We have different guests from around the network come on and talk about their recruits. It's a lot of fun. And then when the portal opens back up, all hands are on deck for that too. As for Florida State, I want to talk about offensive line recruiting. Got a few guys committed, like Michael Ionata out of Clearwater Calvary Christian, as well as Xavier Payne out of Miami Southridge. I think that Payne will end up at guard. Ionata may play tackle, may play guard, maybe a swing player. Those are a couple of the commitments. But what I want to focus on, I'm going to do an all-encompassing O-line situation probably in the next week after all the visits are done. I might as well wait for it to see if they get any more commitments this weekend. But what I really want to talk about are two things. Number one, the 26 class, for whatever reason, and this is cyclical, was probably a little bit better in state for offensive linemen than it's been in quite some time. Again, I don't know why. It's just random. You have an extra 3 or 4 players that are FSU level, and then the next year it's just like crickets. State of Florida is weird with offensive line recruiting, but this year it's been up. They've gotten a couple guys committed from InState, etc. That's the good news. The bad news is, even though Florida State has lined up a gazillion visits with all these kids, whether unofficial, official, or both, they really have not done that well. And I'm surprised because they got in on a lot of guys early. Coach Hand understands what he's looking for. He knew a lot of these kids anyway coming up because he was the coach at UCF. And he's a personal guy. I know him. He's very easy to get along with. And then Gus, same thing. He was the head coach at UCF. So he's recruited all these same guys. I'm surprised that there isn't more success. Case in point, Samuel Roseborough out of Clearwater High School, really like him. Very talented player, just committed to Texas A&M. A kid from Clearwater going to A&M? That's not a good sign. DJ Jones, he just transferred down to Venice, but he was at Berkeley Prep in Tampa. Just committed to UCLA. Really? That's one of 2. Champ Smith, Micah Champ Smith, we call him Champ, from Vero Beach, committed to UCLA. These are all kids Florida State would have taken, 100%. This is not a good trend. Is it so bad? I'm just curious, and if you want to leave a comment on this, fire away. Is it a scenario where fans are looking at this differently? And maybe I am, because I cover Florida State and I'm so involved with it on the daily that I don't see the forest for the trees. Did the 2-10 season and the mediocre O-line play on and off for the last 6-8 years ruin Florida State's chances to get some of these elite kids? What do you think it is? Is it mostly the 2-10? Is it something else? Is it a combination? I'm a little surprised. They're still in on some guys, and Jacoby Green, among others. He's at Madison County, Gadsden County, excuse me, just outside of Tallahassee. It's a kid committed to Mississippi State. They might flip him, and that would be good. He's a powerhouse, 330, big kid. That'd be great. But outside of him, I don't think they're going to get any of the in-state kids that they really wanted that they don't already have. Javion Cooper, maybe, but Syracuse, I think, is going to keep him. He's from Melbourne Central Catholic. Florida State would probably take him. Deron Parks from Cardinal Mooney, kid I know. Auburn thinks they lead for him, and I'd heard that for a while. But he had a good visit with Florida State, and I was curious, but sounds like Auburn's still the leader. We'll see. There's probably a couple of guys I'm missing off the top of my head here, but it's a little surprising because I knew they really focused on it, and they had a lot of kids on campus. To not have even more success, and they're not doing terrible by any means, but to have more success was not what I wanted to hear. We'll see. I don't know who they're prioritizing beyond Aaron Thomas, and I'll get to him momentarily. He might be the most important guy still on the board. Donnell Robinson from Holmes County in Mississippi. I don't know if he's still visiting, but he's a really good player. And Ben Mabinga out of Buford High School just outside Atlanta, one of the best programs in the South. He's slated to visit as well. A couple of kids this weekend. I don't know who's coming and going anymore for any school because the visits are switching around like crazy. But that's what 24/7 has. We'll see who actually makes it to Florida State's campus because, again, I don't trust anything. But back to Aaron Thomas. Florida State doesn't get a lot of kids like him on campus because, again, the state of Florida generally doesn't produce a ton of offensive tackles. Well, his dad played for the Noles, was an interior offensive lineman on the 99 title team. He was a starter. That would be nice to get him. I had a few messages back and forth with the mom. Great gal. They're Noles, but she told me flat out, Aaron Thomas will make his own decision. Hey, I get it. We'll see what happens. A&M, Ohio State, Texas, Washington, Florida State, and a whole host of other programs are after him. 6'6", 300, give or take. Very athletic kid. This is the guy that can be your anchor as a left tackle. Maybe he's your right tackle. They got some pretty good players in last class, but if you get him with the guys they have and add just even one more guy to add on to what they have, and you get Thomas, be a really good class. I was being greedy with what I was talking about a minute ago. You'd like him to be in state for the most part, but this kid's a legacy. He's obviously top of the board talent, and he's got Florida State blood, so that's important as well. But if they can get him, Mario Nash Jr. they got last year, a couple of the other kids, then you could start building classes. When was the last time you said that about a Florida State offensive line, high school recruiting? Not just like one good class and they miss, but boom, 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 like consistently. It's been a while. They could add Jacoby Green maybe to the guys they got committed, and you get this guy. If you get Thomas, it'd be nice to get somebody else too, but again, they'd be in pretty good shape. That would be the developmental part of your program set up. And then you might have to take a couple portal guys this next year, but in the winter of 26, after not this season, but the one after, you might only take like one guy out of the portal. About every year, you're going to take somebody at just about every position. That's just kind of the nature of today's college football world. But remember, FSU's got 4 guys projected to start. They just got out of the portal. That's a lot, man. That's a lot. It's really expensive to do. There's not a lot of chemistry, and it hurts O-line recruiting. Out of the high school ranks, they're like, they're just taking portal guys. At some point, you got to find a way to break through. They can finish off this O-line class strong. It would really help Florida State long term. Again, I don't know if it's going to happen, but they're in position, even though they've lost some guys. It's a narrower path, but there's still some really good players on the board. And there's always the chance, obviously, that you can flip some players too. But I think this next couple of weeks is pivotal. And for the record, Thomas is probably going to make his decision early next week, barring something unforeseen from what I was told. So if Florida State does not get him, that would be a really tough shot. Cannot miss out on legacy recruits, talented offensive tackles. That would not be good. Now to finish up the show, I just want to explain recruiting rankings. I had somebody ask like a bunch of questions in combination. Here are a few of the things that were asked. How do you evaluate? Is it more on in person? Is it the film? Measurables, this, that, and the other? And the answer is yes to all of it. It's convoluted. Everything is based on the eye test first and foremost. As an evaluator and somebody who has watched film for a lot longer than many that watch this show have probably been alive, I can tell you flat out 2 things. High school film is great, especially if it's game tape. This takes too long. But highlights can be manipulated because, you make 4 or 5 bad plays and you just put the good one on there. But that's what I got to go by, at least to start. But at the end of the day, it's not just seeing kids live. It's seeing them live when they're healthy against another Division I player, which is really hard because you can't dictate who that kid plays against on Friday nights. Here's an example. I hate evaluating high school linemen on Friday nights. Why do you think that is? Well, take Aaron Thomas. If I went out to Mountain Point High School in Phoenix this fall, he's 300 pounds. How many guys are going to handle him on a Friday night? In Texas even, or in South Florida, whatever. If you're 6'6", 300 pounds, and you're a pretty good athlete, you're a Miami, Florida State kind of recruit, the kid in front of you is going to get crushed. I have to see you in a camp setting. That's why when we go to Under Armour, all the different people, it's just the way it is. We have to go down to the O-line, D-line one-on-ones. Like the rest of the camp's still going on, like the running back, linebackers, like there will be nobody watching it. Every single scout will be at one spot, O-line, D-line, because we never see the elite players go against each other unless it's one of these camps. That's it. So that's the best we can do. And they can't tackle. They're not in pads, but they do pass pro, and it shows your athleticism, your ability to process, to lose a rep, how do you come back? There's a lot of different things that go into it, but it's still the eye test. Does this kid move like an elite player that should play at, and fill in the blank, Georgia, Florida State, Texas, whatever it may be? Those are the most basic things. And then you get into the stuff that you hear like Kirby Smart talk about, or Bobby Bowden, or anybody else that you can think of that's been highly successful in the last 40, 50 years. Measurables. Speed and verified. Electronic. L-drill, 40, stuff like that. We want to know it. Height, hand size, your wingspan, especially for offensive tackles. It better be over 80. And finally, here's the other big one. Your ability to do things that you wouldn't really think, especially the big guys, when it comes to bending and jumping, like vertical jump. Vertical is not necessarily a huge deal for alignment, but if he's got an exceptional vertical, it's probably going to transcend to what he can do on the field. And if he can change direction, like the L drill or the 5-10-5, again, change of direction, lateral movements, they're huge. We watch the 40 and all that stuff, dude, just how he moves. Does he get off the line quickly? Has he been trained, or is this kid raw and he's never run a 40 before? If it's that blatant, we kind of throw it to the side. But at the end of the day, again, it's the one-on-one. So whether it's DB against receiver, quarterbacks taking on a really talented corner, and he's just got an okay slot receiver, he's got to make up for it with a great throw. Anything you want to look at, it's the eye test in the top competition. That's where most kids get graded the most. And that leads into the next thing. One of the other questions this person asked, great one. How do you rank like the kids from smaller schools and all that? And it's impossible. A lot of them don't get scouted. Like the kid from Mississippi, that's the hardest state in the country to scout. It's a massive state. It's about 6 hours from one side of the state to the other. But there's talent all over, but it's like one or two players at every school. So you'll have a kid that's good enough to play at Ole Miss or Tennessee or something going up against some kid that they can smoke, and his play after play, it's a joke. I went to see Deuce Knight play each of the last 2 years in Mississippi. I mean, he had a few guys on his team who were pretty good, but like he was taller than all his linemen. Most of his linemen weren't even 6 foot. They just weren't that good. So he had to do what he could. And the other teams that I saw him play against, they had better players overall, and his team lost each time because they were just going against better competition. It's difficult to grade Deuce or anybody else in that circumstance when the other team's got better players. So where you're at, small school, big school, do you have talent around you to help your team? Remember, football is a team sport. All these things are factors in trying to grade a kid. But here's the newest thing. I've spoken to several people about this, and I don't know how you put it in, and everybody's going to do it differently. But if there's one thing that is really trending in football at the prep to college level and the college, the NFL especially, it is the following. Are you a low maintenance player? And it means all of the following categories are definitively looked at. Are you somebody that's a yes sir, no sir? Or are you always going to ask questions, or why do I got to do that? Are you going to go through a wall for the coach? Do you have people around you, your family, your handler, your 7-on-7, that are going to be a pain to that college or pro coach? If you want to lose your stock, and we talk about this too as recruiting analysts, it's a real thing. I've talked to several, some on air, some off. If you're a guy that has people around that college coaches or pro coaches don't like, your stock goes down. So it's not just on the field, it is off the field. So if you're somebody that's all about NIL, stock's probably going to go down. All this stuff is very complex, but recruiting rankings are hard. And that's why they change constantly. And it's an evolving situation with the House settlement coming into effect on July 1st. So low maintenance players that compete at a high level and hopefully go to camps, those are the guys that are probably going to get the best rankings, especially if you live in areas that are more likely to have scouts. Georgia, Florida, Alabama are the easiest. Texas, California too, to a certain degree. There's scouts, especially in Texas, all over the place. But if you're not in one of those areas, there is a chance you'll get overlooked. Even the state of North Carolina, which is loaded, it can absolutely happen. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. I truly appreciate you stopping in to talk Seminoles with me. We'll see you again soon.